On a Tuesday he made his entrance. 2 sturdy duffel bags. An aged guitar. A smile that strained to conceal its shattered heart. Cole is his name. 28. The younger brother of my husband. Recently emerged from a heart-wrenching breakup with the woman who compelled him to call off their wedding, just 5 weeks prior to the big day. "It's only for a short time," my husband remarked, already making his way back to the garage. I remained silent. A smile graced my lips. I prepared the guest's bed as if it were not situated so close to ours. On that initial night, slumber eluded me, not out of a sense of guilt. Yet it was precisely because I could hear him, beyond the barrier. Quiet. It wasn't intentional. The subtle whispers of thoughts, the quiet murmurs that escape when one believes they are alone. A deep exhale. A ceaseless rustle of fabric. A soft primal breath, the sort that slips out when you're battling tears in the shadows. I remained still, a sense of déjà vu washing over me as I pondered the reason behind this unsettling familiarity. In that moment of clarity, it dawned on me. That was indeed I. Long ago. Weeping silently beside a man oblivious to the turmoil unraveling just 2 feet away from him. With Cole's presence, the house took on a new essence. More inviting. Increased awareness. He observed when I changed my hairstyle. He praised the coffee. He took it upon himself to clean his own dishes. Uncomplicated matters. Yet they accumulated. Perhaps that was the source of my greatest fear. For the first time in years I felt truly noticed. And it was merely the second day. The clock had just struck 7 a.m. I believed I was the only one. It's just me, the kettle, and the delightful sound of toast springing to life. I was dressed in nothing out of the ordinary. Merely one of those tattered, roomy sleep shirts that lingered with a subtle scent of lavender detergent and a hint of dissatisfaction. At that moment I caught wind of it, the gentle groan of the floorboards by the staircase. I pivoted. Cole. Unshod. A t-shirt hanging casually on his hips, hair tousled in that effortlessly attractive manner that suits men who embrace a laid-back vibe. Eyes weighed down, still caught in the embrace of slumber, or perhaps something more burdensome. "Morning," he murmured, his voice gravelly and soft. The sound of that voice. It was out of place in the corridor. It was meant for a shadowy space. An hour that comes after. "You're up early," I remarked, acutely conscious of the time that had passed since anyone had regarded me as if I were the most significant sight of their morning. "I couldn't find rest," he responded. "The aroma of your coffee was simply irresistible. It was merely a trifle. Simply a kind word. A brief and courteous statement. Yet it arrived in a way that was unexpected. For the simple reason that my husband never praised my coffee. Have you observed how I consistently added cinnamon to the grounds as the chill of winter set in? Or recalled that I preferred my mug to be warmed beforehand? Cole lingered next to me, maintaining a respectful distance, neither touching nor imposing. Merely nearby. Here. As he filled his cup, he murmured something softly, nearly to himself. There's a certain comfort in not waking up alone. Time stood still for an instant. Not that he intended any significance by it. Yet I did. I contemplated the expanse of my bed, the distance that had developed between myself and the man I vowed to share my life with. How we could share the same sheets yet remain galaxies away. And there stood his brother. Unshod, gentle and uncomfortably intimate. Recognizing me in a manner I hadn't recognized myself in ages. He took a sip of his coffee, a smile spreading across his face. "You have a way of warming up the chill of the morning." He turned and strolled away. In an instant. Left me there, grasping a slice of toast that had lost its appeal, pondering how just 5 words from him could ignite a warmth in me I believed had long since faded. He began to utter my name with greater frequency. Rarely. Quiet. Scattered in various places. Gently. As if he were conducting an experiment. Experiencing its flavor. "I appreciate the lovely dinner, Anna. The aroma is simply delightful, Anna. Are you all right, Anna?" Forever in that familiar tone, soft, deliberate, as if my name were a secret he wasn't meant to utter but found impossible to resist. And with each occurrence it struck a new and unexpected place. Those are not my ears. Not even my heart beats for it. Reduce. More profound. A location that had remained untouched for ages. It ought not to have been significant. It was merely my name. Yet, when you remain unseen for an extended period, without being acknowledged as if you hold significance, even the tiniest details resonate like a storm. On a fateful night, I let a glass slip from my grasp and shatter in the sink. The sudden crash jolted me from my thoughts. Before I could even bend down to retrieve it, he was already at my side, exposed knees resting against the cool tile. A gentle grip encircles my wrist. "Don't," he stated, his voice unwavering. "You might end up hurting yourself." He collected the fragments as if they posed a threat. Then they gazed up at me, still on their knees, still clutching the fragments, with those eerily serene eyes. "Anna," he repeated, his voice lingering in the air. Only that. There was an undeniable quality to its arrival, within the hush, within the intimacy, that stirred a deep ache in my chest. For years, no one had uttered my name with a hint of concern. He is not my husband. They are not my friends. Not even my daughter, who had blossomed into a woman with her own universe, her own gravitational pull. Yet this man, this visitor in my abode, spoke as if it carried weight, as if I held any significance. As I settled into bed that night, I whispered it to my own heart. Only a single time. "Anna." For the first time in ages, it felt as though I was conversing with someone familiar, rather than a mere stranger. I found myself rinsing strawberries. That's all there is to it. Heated liquid cascading over crimson berries. A gentle murmur escapes my lips. A melody I had forgotten I still held in my heart. The day had unfolded beautifully. It was one of those serene, sun-drenched afternoons when the weight of the house seemed to lift, if only for a moment. I donned a garment that was airy, a breezy summer dress I once reserved for visitors. Barefaced. Only I. Genuine. Cozy. Nearly gentle once more. I reached for a towel, and out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a flicker of movement. The pane of glass. Beyond the confines of four walls. Close to the garden. Cole. Remaining motionless. Observing my every move. Not gazing. Not in that manner that men occasionally exhibit, the kind that sends shivers down your spine. This felt distinct. He rested against the porch beam, one hand cradled beneath the other, as if he had been in that spot for quite some time, as if he had lost awareness of his visibility. And those eyes, they were observing me intently. I felt their gaze upon me, as if I were an object of their scrutiny. Gently, intriguingly. It was as if he were attempting to etch my appearance into his memory for those moments when I was not in the spotlight. Without an apron. No grin for the gathering. There is no designated role. A solitary figure stands at the sink, her bare feet planted on the cool floor. A soft melody escaping her lips as she moves with ease in her cotton attire. I stood still, caught in a moment of sheer disbelief. Our gazes intertwined. Neither of us stirred. The strawberry eluded my grasp, tumbling into the sink with a delicate splash. Yet he remained steadfast, his gaze unwavering. He refrained from smirking, failed to change direction. He simply informed me that he noticed me, and a sensation coiled within me, taut and piercing. Do not fear. No shame. Desire. The discomfort of feeling observed, not merely as a thing, but as an inquiry. A conundrum. A tale that beckoned to be savored page by page from beginning to end. Initially I averted my gaze. Yet the moment had passed. Now I found myself unable to shake the curiosity about what he perceived, how I appeared to him, and why when I shut my eyes that night. His gaze lingered on my skin, an echo of its intensity. The event unfolded in the corridor. As the sun began its descent, the late afternoon cast a warm glow over the landscape. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting golden stripes that danced across the floor. I found myself burdened with a laundry basket, precariously piled high with clothes. The path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty. And then, in an instant, palms. One perched upon my shoulder, the other adorning my wrist. Gentle and unassuming. Simply intercepting me before I crashed into him. The basket tipped precariously, releasing a cascade of socks and shirts, along with the fragile items I had always kept to myself, never allowing another to fold them. Yet it hardly registered with me, because his hand lingered, right there, enveloped around my wrist. Cozy. steadfast, vibrant. I gazed up at him, uncomfortably near. His expression was devoid of a smile. He watched me once more, as if I were an object he knew he shouldn't touch, yet found himself unable to resist reaching for. "Are you all right?" he inquired, and the question resonated in a place it perhaps shouldn't have. I gave a slight nod, excessively swift, yet his thumb grazed the delicate skin of my wrist, lingering softly, precisely where my pulse danced beneath the surface. In that moment it dawned on me. He was doing more than merely assisting. He was experiencing a wave of emotions, exploring the boundaries of an unspoken truth that lingered between us, waiting for the courage to be acknowledged. We both lingered in that moment, our breaths coming in shallow gasps, the atmosphere heavy with unfulfilled potential. In that moment he released his grip. Gradually, his fingers withdrew as if they had already lost the connection, and he was reluctant to reveal it. I sank to my knees to collect the laundry. My hands trembled with an unsteady rhythm. He too crouched, enveloped in silence, assisting, so near that his arm grazed mine with each stretch. Our words fell silent once more. Yet, as we both stood there and I reclaimed the basket in my arms, the lingering sensation of his thumb on my skin remained, a haunting reminder of our connection. As if it were a hidden truth, as if issuing a caution, as if we stood before a door nearly ajar, yet untouched by the turn of the handle. It all began with a neckline, just a tad lower, insufficient to be apparent, only a hint to perceive, if your gaze was already drawn. Next came the fragrance. This isn't the attire I don for dinner gatherings, the alternative option, the one I ceased to embrace when my husband no longer kissed my neck. I reassured myself that it was trivial. I found myself simply lacking in interest. Isolated. It was a comforting experience to gaze into the mirror and behold something gentle once more. Something that lacked the essence of a mother, a wife, a mere backdrop. Yet, beneath the surface, I was aware of the reality. I was preparing myself for Cole, for the manner in which he lingered in the doorway before uttering a word. How his gaze fell, and then swiftly averted, as I stretched for an item on the upper shelf, for the silence that swelled between us, even in the presence of others. I began to navigate the house as if he could catch sight of me, as I had hoped he would. A button left slightly undone, a fleeting touch of bare skin as I leaned past him, lips shimmering without a purpose in sight. And each time he gazed at me, genuinely gazed, my breath hitched in my throat as if I were the one intruding. I suppose that was indeed the case, for the simple reason that nothing had transpired. Not quite. Yet all had transformed irrevocably. I started to observe the moments when he would shave, when he donned his cologne, as he hesitated for a fleeting moment in the kitchen, savoring the atmosphere before finally pulling away. On a quiet afternoon, I accidentally let my keys slip from my grasp near the front door. He stooped to gather them up. Our hands brushed against each other. He held on a moment longer. Nor did I. It endured for merely a heartbeat. Yet it blazed for hours on end. The hour had slipped beyond midnight. A silence so profound it seems to draw the very walls closer together. A profound quietude envelopes the surroundings, making each sound resonate with an intimate solitude. Rest eluded me. Once more. The expanse of my bed has grown chillier of late, even with my husband beside me. He had drifted off to sleep some time ago, his mouth slightly ajar, the TV remote clutched in his hand. His snores drifted softly like a distant echo. I ventured outside to fetch some water, gliding silently down the corridor, mindful of the slumbering souls around. And then, I caught wind of it. My name is a reflection of my identity. Subdued. A mere murmur. Muted whispers beyond the guest room door. I stood still, my body rigid with shock. Initially, I believed it was merely a figment of my imagination. Perhaps it was merely the house's creak, or the reverberation of my own thoughts trailing too closely behind. Yet once more the sound reached my ears. Anna, prolonged, embraced the warmth of slumber, burdened by desire. It was not a complete thought. This is not a plea for assistance. The sound echoed with a deep sense of yearning, of an individual adrift in a reverie they wished to linger in forever. My heart raced wildly as I pressed my hand against my chest. I remained still. There was no breath to be found. There I stood, enveloped in quietude, attuned to the way he uttered my name, as if it were a cherished secret meant solely for his ears. And a part of me shattered wide open, free from blame, no shame, yet acknowledgement. For years no one, not even my husband, had uttered my name in such a way. As if it held the weight of the world. It had a sweet flavor. It pained me to utter those words, as if they were forbidden. I retreated gradually, stealthily made my way to the kitchen, gazed intently at the sink until the faucet sharpened into clarity. Yet the water remained still, never flowing, for the reason that it echoed incessantly in my mind. Repeatedly. That singular term, Anna. In an instant, I found myself uncertain of where the true peril lay. What lies beyond the door to the guest room? Or the iteration of myself lingering in the corridor, yearning for him to utter those words once more. The tension had been accumulating for weeks. The fleeting glances, the brushes, the near misses. Up until that night, the tempest began its fury. Shortly after the evening meal, the thunder rumbled softly, as if reluctant to disturb the stillness around it. Simply give us a heads up. My husband had already ascended the stairs, grumbling about an early morning meeting. Cole lingered in the shadows. He assisted in drying the dishes. We exchanged few words. The kitchen exuded warmth, a heavy humidity clinging to the air from the stove, as the thick oppressive heat lingered in anticipation of the impending rain. A palpable presence lingered just behind me. I always had the ability to do so. The tempest split the heavens as I rested against the counter. He advanced with measured intent, untouched. Yet, in that very moment, his breath was palpable, a presence that lingered in the air. One could nearly sense his hand, despite the fact that he remained still. You seem to maintain your composure even in the midst of chaos, he remarked. I gulped. I enjoy the sound, I murmured. It grants me the freedom to embrace the chaos. He chuckled gently. Yet, his gaze held no hint of playfulness as it met mine. It was unrefined, electrified. Absolutely. In silence we shifted our positions, beyond the confines of four walls, stepping onto the back porch. The rain started to fall, thick and comforting. I was the one to step into it first. Unshod, head reclined backward, allowing it to permeate my shirt, my hair, my facade. The faint creak of the screen door echoed behind me. I sensed his presence there. Yet to make contact. Yet my body was already yearning for it. I pivoted to meet his gaze. Gazes intertwined. In that fleeting moment the stillness shattered. He moved closer to me. His hand wrapped around my waist. I allowed him to continue. Showed no sign of hesitation. Did not feign. When his lips touched mine it transcended a mere kiss. It was a liberation. Weeks of restraint crumbled beneath the roar of thunder, the touch of skin, and the simple affirmation of yes. Indeed. His hands glided over my drenched shirt, holding on to me as fiercely as the tempest outside. I encircled his neck with my arms, drawing him nearer, savoring the rain on his lips, experiencing a sensation I had long denied myself, a longing that stirs the soul. It lacked the essence of youth or impulsiveness. It was mature, profound, acquired through months of painful quietude, and looks that conveyed what our words could not express. Silence enveloped us as we made our way back indoors. Yet, the gaze he cast my way just before he closed the guest room door? That conveyed it all. And for the very first time, I felt compelled to pursue. Silence enveloped the house once more. Excessively silent. My husband lay in slumber. The tempest had moved on. The air lingered with the scent of damp grass, infused with an undercurrent of electricity. Yet slumber eluded me. Not with the taste of his lips still echoing on mine. Not with the sensation of his hand still searing through my drenched shirt. I lingered in bed for nearly an hour, gazing up at the ceiling, inhaling lightly, anticipating the moment when the weight of guilt will surge forth, engulfing me entirely. It did not. All I experienced was a sense of being drawn in. At 12:47 a.m., I rose from my slumber. Unshod feet, gentle rap, a pulse that refused to relent. I refrained from knocking. I have just swung the door wide open. Cole found himself wide awake, perched on the brink of the bed, without a shirt, hair glistening and dampened by the gentle caress of the rain, eyes wide open yet devoid of surprise, as if he had anticipated my arrival, as if he had been anticipating this moment far longer than I ever could. Silence enveloped us. It was unnecessary. I entered and shut the door softly behind me. The gentle click resonated as if it were a whispered secret. He rose to his feet, and I approached him. His hands settled on my waist as if they were already familiar with its contours. My robe fell to the floor as if it had been biding its time, ready for this moment. He kissed me in a way that felt entirely new this time. Unhurried. I have no appetite. As if a man were finally embracing a woman he had envisioned for countless months. Now that she existed in the flesh, he was determined not to let a single moment slip away. We did not share an intimate moment. We transformed into it. Breath entwined with breath. Hands grasping, quivering, revering. His lips brushed against my collarbone. My fingers tangled in his hair. Each part of my being stirred, recognized, desired. And when it concluded, he refused to release his grip. He simply embraced me. Flesh against flesh. Stillness. Yet, it felt as though we were both terrified that the moment would vanish if we exhaled too forcefully. Yet, I wished for it to remain, to linger in the air a little longer. For within that space, during that moment, enveloped in those embraces, I was not a wife, or perhaps a mother, or perhaps a hidden truth. I was simply myself. In that moment I experienced a vitality like never before. I believed I could move on from it. Kindly shut the door, please. Don the robe. Serve the coffee. Grin at the table as if everything remained unchanged. Yet all had changed, particularly myself. The following morning, Cole regarded me with the same eyes as before. He regarded me as if he had always perceived me in that light. It was merely that he had finally been granted permission to do so. He remained silent. Yet, as our gazes locked across the kitchen counter, I found myself momentarily breathless. Due to the absence of any awkwardness. It was not remorse. It was an understanding. And to make matters worse, it was gone. I endeavored to persevere. I meticulously folded the laundry. I pressed my lips gently against my husband's cheek. I responded to work emails. Yet my body continued to resonate, forever etched in memory, the places his hands had wandered, where his breath had softly murmured, where my name resonated with a sense of reverence on his lips. I continued to believe it would eventually diminish. It was merely a fleeting instant, a mere pause amidst the tempest. The weight of countless lonely years has finally come to rest upon my shoulders. Yet, as I strolled by his door that evening, I hesitated, and when I remained still, did not depart. He gently pried it open, remained silent. I simply waited. As I crossed the threshold, once more, not due to any weakness on my part. Yet I belonged to him already. Not in writing, not in assurance. Yet in each glance, each pause, every breath I had refrained from taking until that instant on the porch amidst the rain. As he drew me closer once more, this time with a deliberate slowness, perhaps tinged with a hint of sorrow, I understood that this was far more than a mere error. A transformation had occurred. A chasm had emerged, forever altering the landscape of what once was. I'm uncertain about how much longer we can endure this way, in this state of uncertainty, within this deception. Yet, I am aware that feigning it was merely a single evening, that was the true deception, for the simple reason that the reality is. He took up residence in the guest room, yet I drew closer to him. Now, I find myself at a loss regarding how to proceed with moving out.